Hello, everybody. RMJ Movie Reviews back again with another Happy Holidays movie review. Last time I did the Wesley Snipes movie review, but today I decided I'm gonna start my string of holiday movie reviews and squeeze in the Wesley Snipes retro movie reviews. So today, the beginning of my holiday review movie is gonna start with Dutch from 1991, starring Ed O'Neill and Ethan Randall. And I think he's now Ombre. I don't know what his new name is, but the guy changed his name. And I'm sorry, Peter McDonald, and or it might be Christopher McDonald. I'm sorry, Christopher McDonald, I think is his name. And also the lovely and beautiful and talented JoBeth Williams in a minor role. I have always been a big fan of Dutch. I still remember when this movie came out. I remember this movie came out in 1991, and I don't remember exactly what time of the year that this movie came out, but I do remember that it came out sometime, and I was in elementary school when this movie came out. And I remember at that time I was a big fan of Ed O'Neill because I used to watch, probably shouldn't have been able to watch it, but I used to watch Married with Children, and the jokes used to just fly over my head. But watching Married with Children now, that show is like really seriously off the hook. Listening to the jokes now. Interesting thing about this movie was written by John Hughes, of course, of all the classics: Planes, Trains, Uncle Buck, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, all those classic 80s suburban Chicago movies from the 80s. And John Hughes has also produced this too, and I think this was directed by the guy who directed, I think, the original Crocodile Dundee, if I remember right. Interesting thing is, I never realized that this movie bombed when it came out because, of course, I was so young. I didn't pay attention to box office numbers, but I never realized this movie was like a box office bomb. And apparently, this movie kind of, I don't want to say damaged, but I guess Ed O'Neill and John Hughes never did another project and never had a good relationship after they made this film. And apparently, Ed O'Neill can't even really watch this movie because it's so disappointing that the movie wasn't a financial hit. But of course, Dutch tells the story of as they call him in the movie, Dutch is JoBeth Williams' boyfriend. He's a working class guy, and he's gonna drive up to a private school to pick up JoBeth Williams' son, who's Doyle, who's like this really obnoxious little spoiled brat, and take him back home for the holidays because his very equally mean and nasty rich daddy pretty much just wants to bang some blonde for the holidays and doesn't want to spend time with his son. So he throws it off on his ex-wife, who he, kind of used and abused, and now, she's stuck bearing the burden. And Dutch wants to pick the kid up so he can bond with him and just have a good relationship with him, take him back home to his mom's house for the holidays. And pretty much that's the simple story of Dutch. I've just always enjoyed this film, and actually, I have this on an old VHS tape that I taped off of HBO when the film originally aired. I still watch it from time to time, but this movie is just so much fun. The real interesting thing is how I saw a retro review that Siskel and Ebert did for this film on on Siskel and Ebert back in the day. Of course, they gave it 2 thumbs down because that was how they could be sometimes, unless it was like some big mainstream movie that everybody else liked, or some independent art house that everybody was giving thumbs up to. But kind of in their review, they said that that Doyle was obnoxious and Dutch. I could agree with that to an extent. I will say that some of Dutch's jokes are a little bit on the crude side. He is a little bit crude, but for me, it's fun. It's like a fun crude, but fun crude like in that 12-year-old boy kind of sense. You know what I mean? Like if I travel back to being a 12-year-old, 10-year-old boy, people cracking jokes about mushrooms in their crack and pulling babies out of crotches, it's funny. But I tell you, man, this is pretty much a by the numbers kind of, boy coming into his own and learning about the real world starting as a spoiled brat, and then Dutch kind of teaches him to be a good man. But the movie is kind of littered with kind of goofy sight gags. Ed O'Neill, getting struck by firecrackers and getting slipping on the ground and splitting his pants, and the kid doing karate on him and beating him up and kicking him in the balls and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny. It is. It's absolutely hilarious. The fun thing about this is that Ed O'Neill is really a good actor. I've never really, because I grew up on Married with Children, Al Bundy is so stuck in my mind. He really is a good actor. And, I think that in this movie, John Hughes wasn't really asking him to really play a character. He was really just asking him to play Al Bundy, just slightly less goofy. He's not as goofy as Al Bundy, but really, essentially, he's playing Al Bundy from Married with Children. It's a funny movie, man. I still think it's hilarious. It does the typical John Hughes stuff, kind of, really rich. I hate to use it, really rich white people who just are so rich and obnoxious and look down on people who are construction workers and painters and all that kind of stuff. And also it of course has the trademarks of any 80s or early 90s movie where you have when any white character wants to transform and get out of the rich people white collar mentality, of course they have to meet some homeless folks or meet the very sentimental homeless black family that brings them into reality. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about like kind of actors from this time period who did 80s and early 90s movies. It's something about when we as people of color play homeless people or someone who's struggling and going through it. There's something that even when it's as sentimental as hokey as Dutch is, it feels so real. Like when she gives the whole speech, asks Doyle like, are you going home to meet your mom for the holiday? It feels so real, man. It almost touches Color Purple type of acting, man. It's crazy, but this movie's a lot of fun. Of course, who could forget the gag where Dutch and Doyle are riding in the car with the two hookers. And the hooker is trying to take off Dutch's ring, and she squeezes, I don't know, I think it's hand lotion, and she squeezes it so tight that the lotion goes down his throat. Hilarious gag. I just love that. Ed O'Neill is so funny in this movie. And of course, we got to give all props to JoBeth Williams. JoBeth Williams is still beautiful. She's still fine. She's only in the film a tiny bit, but she's just a marvelous actress, and she's beautiful. She does so much with so little. This movie is just pure by the numbers, sentimental John Hughes junk from the early 90s, but I love it. It's a fun movie. I'm not taking anything away from it from these little things that I'm pointing out. I'm just recognizing it for what it is. It's a fun movie, and my God, man, Doyle is an obnoxious brat, man. I mean, my goodness, this kid has some serious emotional issues, man. Oh man, for the stunt he pulled in this, where he crashed the car, he should have been put in the detention home. They should have arrested him, man. This kid is an obnoxious little bastard, man. He's awful, man. But of course, in this movie, we have to find a way to redeem a character like Doyle, and he's redeemed by the end of the picture. And I just always really liked this movie. Typical John Hughes fluff, but Ed O'Neill gives an excellent performance. The kid Ethan Randall, he gives a good performance. It's an on the road buddy picture, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. The characters can't stand each other. They butt heads. There's a lot of sight gags, slaps, karate fights, getting shot in the ball with pellet guns. It's exactly what you expect it to be, and it does it well. And also, I made a mistake. This movie doesn't take place during Christmas. It's actually on Thanksgiving, but still, I count November and December as one holiday. So I love Dutch. This movie is funny, man. And I guess too, I was a kid when I saw the movie. so it also kind of stays with me a little bit there. But that's my review of Dutch today. I kind of that was the only way I could kind of choose to review it. But please, you guys give a thumbs up to my video, subscribe to my channel, and please, if anybody really likes Dutch, is kind of appalled that it's underappreciated, that people overly criticize it, please leave some comments on my channel. We can talk back and forth about Dutch. And I think my next holiday movie review is actually gonna be Die Hard, the first Die Hard with Bruce Willis, because that does take place during Christmas. So please, everybody, subscribe to my channel, leave some comments about Dutch, anything that I might have missed or anything you didn't like or whatever, we can talk about it. But that is RMJ movie review of Dutch starring Ed O'Neill. And if you can, subscribe to my channel, and I'll get back to you soon.